Welcome to the February 18th, 2020 episode of Reactive Consciousness, the in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
On principle. You're here on principle.
Sure.
And I am the Vise principle.
Oof. Not bad. Not bad.
Lotus Vise principle.
Lotus Principal.
Now that we have lost our audience,
Yeah.
we should begin the show.
Fuck all that.
Oh man, I had a pretty good conversation with you earlier today off mic.
You said you wouldn't talk about that.
We have both had recent doctor's visits, and but no, I have gotten some games of note recently, and I've been amped up for them. But I'm really catching up on stuff that I missed out this week, or this past year. But I do think we have some pretty cool things to talk about this week. Some kind of historical stuff too. So first up is the Nintendo PlayStation that has been getting shopped around to different venues.
Yeah, I saw it at MagFest one time.
Yeah, that is gone up for auction now
for absurdly high prices too.
Well, it's probably going to be the single-handedly most expensive video game thing ever sold.
Which is kind of funny because isn't it really just like a Super Nintendo, but with Sony's name on it?
Well, it does have a functioning CD-ROM drive. I mean, it's a unique piece of hardware.
That's fair, but does anything go into it? Does it play any CDs? Can it play PlayStation games?
No, it can't play PlayStation games because that's not, the
hardware. It's the Nintendo PlayStation, but
it's not the hardware.
But was any CD made for it to use? Is basically what I'm asking.
There was nothing ever, nothing past the conceptual stage. So,
right.
this is a prototype piece of hardware.
Yeah,
Nobody was developing games for it. I'm sure there was some internal stuff programmed for it just to show what it could do at some point. But this hardly got off the ground because of Nintendo partnering up with Philips to make that
that was who they partnered with. Yeah,
a fantastic CDI system.
A whole Triforce of Zelda games.
Yeah, that screwing over Sony really helped you out there, Nintendo. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, but
and
anyway.
and then the big console wars were Nintendo and Sega at the time, and now Sony and Sega are best buds.
Yeah. So the guy who found this or ended up being its custodian ended up getting this fixed. It of course wasn't working at the time that he had gotten it, but this is the only one that they know of that works.
Mm-hmm.
There are other prototypes out there apparently, but this is the only one that functions completely. So it's kind of cool and a cool piece of a cool piece of history. I think there is a game out there that somebody programmed for it, like a fan game recently.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say if there isn't, then somebody could make them, but never mind. I guess it's been done.
Yeah, so Nintendo PlayStation game. I know it was around. Somebody made something for it. It was like a beat 'em up game. It was like a fan game. I don't know if that was something that actually came out, or maybe I read something about it. I don't know, but apparently it functions with it. It's supposed to have similar qualities as to a Sega CD. Essentially, it's not supposed to have the the capabilities of a Sony PlayStation.
Again, it's basically a Super Famicom.
Yeah, exactly, with added capabilities. So Nintendo instead made the N64, and that worked out well for them too.
I mean, it did.
No, not really. The N64 was incredibly unpopular in Japan.
In Japan, okay.
And in the United States, it did all right. It did well, but it didn't sell nearly the amount of copies of games
Yeah,
that the
when you watched
PlayStation did.
TV and you saw the commercial that had the FMV scenes in Final Fantasy VII, like that was it. It was
Well,
over.
it wasn't even just that. It was like the games were much cheaper. You could feasibly buy a $30 or $40 new game for PlayStation when that was out, and most new N64 games were
Like 50
$60 to eighty
bucks.
dollars. $60 to $80 is what I remember. I remember Super Smash Brothers being over $60 when it came out, I believe.
Hmm.
And that was towards the end of the system's life. And basically, the only thing that sold well on the N64 was first party titles.
Sure, that's true for sure. Yeah.
And that's true for most of Nintendo's post SNES life. However, of course, the Wii did really well. It did well for certain third parties, not all of them. The Switch has done well for everybody involved.
Yeah.
But GameCube was basically only a first-party seller. It
Yeah,
did
with a
pretty.
couple of like random outstanding
Yeah, Sega
titles.
did well on it. Sega did really well on the GameCube, thankfully, so
Yeah,
they're not dead.
porting their Dreamcast titles.
Yeah, exactly. You have to realize that Super Monkey Ball was not a GameCube game when it first started. There was no way. It had to have been a Dreamcast game. It had to have been, because it came out like right when the GameCube was coming out, like right when it was coming out. Like Jet Set Radio Future, again, that must have started its life as a
Well, Jet Set Radio
Dreamcast
Future
game.
was ported to the Xbox rather than the GameCube.
I'm just saying, all those games at that time.
Yeah.
There's no way that they would have made a whole game from scratch for the new Xbox coming out. There's like no way.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is cool. However, there are a bunch of people like complaining about who's bidding on it. Of course, because like who can afford this kind of thing? I think it's over $300,000
Yeah,
now.
it's something insane.
Yeah. Like the guy who founded Oculus Rift, who is a controversial figure in the media, for at the very least. It's so much so that Oculus doesn't even really talk about him anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to give him the press of calling his name now. But he apparently was the highest bidder at one point. I don't know if he still is, but yeah, this is big time. This is like no normal person is going to be able to afford this.
Well, what bothers me is like no matter who gets it, like should they have it? This is one of those things where it really does seem like it
Belongs
should
in a
be.
museum.
Yeah, exactly. It's in a museum. It really does come off like that. Like instead of like I just have it at home now and it gets dust on my shelf. Like what are you gonna do with it?
The prominent video game museums have all basically said the same thing, which is that there is no way that they could ever be the winner of this kind of thing because...
Of course not. They don't have $1 billion.
Well, that's not even just that. It's the fact that... It's the very fact that they can do so much other good with that kind of money, even if they had it.
Yeah.
Like this is one piece of memorabilia that will be well taken care of. There's plenty of other stuff that needs to be preserved that has no chance.
Yeah.
Little to no chance of being preserved well. There's plenty of advertisements and development diaries and all kinds of like stuff that was made during the process of making these games that still needs to be preserved. Interviews need to be made for people while they're still alive. From the early days of the hobby. So, I mean, it would be really nice if one of those people bought this and then donated it to a museum. That's not unheard of. Because that's how museums get art a lot of times. So who knows how this is going to shake out. But in the best world, that's what would happen, so everybody could take a look at it. But, it's one of those things. I guess it's just a cool thing that exists. It looks like a combination between a Walkman and a Super Famicom, which is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It also has its own controller, unique controller from that time too, which is like would blow your mind. I'm looking at it right now. It's just like a Super Nintendo that says Sony PlayStation on it.
Yeah, it's really odd. Yeah.
Yeah, or a Super Famicom controller rather, with the 4 colors. But it's still really neat. Of course, there's plenty of stuff out there that did get released or is in small amounts that needs to be preserved. So it's cool that this is out there, but it's one of those things. Moving on from that. We have so this week Yakuza Remastered Collection got its the 5th game, and also the physical came out.
Yeah,
so,
the physical of all 3. Yeah, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, I was super excited about that. I had mine pre-ordered from day one. I'm sure you did as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
when
I'm
I
super
finally
excited.
get to playing it, I particularly look forward to playing 3.
Well, yeah, 3 had the most content stripped. Probably that's the major one, and 5 finally has a physical release in the United States and
5 I think is
Canada.
unchanged, and 4 has Tanimura's actor changed because of a behind the scenes controversy, but otherwise the game itself is what you'd expect.
Yeah, it's cool. And I'll remind people that one of the cool features of this limited edition is that they give you a physical box for the PS or for Yakuza 5, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, but it's like it's a
got.
PS3 case, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, they did it to make it look good on the shelf for you. So that's pretty cool. I mean, that means that a version of all the mainline Yakuza games is on the PS4. Is that correct?
I think so.
It's the Zero, 1, Kiwami 1,
Kiwami 2, and now 3, 4, and 5.
And
6,
obviously.
And Judgment, yeah. So and
7's out.
7 in Japan and Ishin in Japan. The only thing that's missing from the older games,
side games, yeah.
Like Dead Souls, but like nobody's really clamoring for that. It would just be interesting.
Yeah,
it's like Metal Gear Solid VR missions. Like, okay, thanks, I guess.
Sure. I mean, even Fist of the North Star game is still out.
That's on PS4 as well, and that's not a Yakuza game, but it's a Yakuza game.
It is. It is. But that's really cool that most of them are all on the PS4,
and most of them are on the PS3 as well. Like 0 digitally.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, 0 digitally. 3, 4, and 5, obviously, and in Japan. HD remasters of 1 and 2, so not Kiwami, but like PS2 1 and 2.
Up-res 1 and 2. That surprises me that Zero has 6's engine, right?
Oh, absolutely not. Kiwami 2 has 6's engine.
Okay, never mind. I was gonna say that surprises me that 6, if my line of thinking was right, but it wasn't.
6 was the first one in the West that came out like that. I think Kiwami 2 might have come out first in Japan, but either way, it was earth-shattering when you see the first whichever one.
Gotcha. Well, this is still really cool, especially considering that I believe at the very least, if rumors are going to be believed, at the very least, the PS5 will be backwards compatible with the PS4. Mm-hmm. I absolutely believe that. I don't know about all the other ones, but I absolutely believe that the PS4 will be backwards compatible with the PS5. So that'll be really great for longevity to have all of those all in one place.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that it's going to be like the launch of the PS4, where in the early days of the PS5, there are going to be the same game released on PS4 and PS5, just like there were PS3 and PS4 versions of the same game in the early days of the PS4.
I mean, Microsoft announced the same, very, very same thing.
Yeah, it's not surprising. I mean, like, it's a nice gradual way of getting used to these new games until finally, okay, you have to actually get the new system now, but it's a pretty good start. And it's also a pretty good way of, like, you know how late-gen games, or not late-gen, you know how games at the end of a system's life look quite different from games early in the system's life? So this is also a good segue for the developers as well. Like, Uncharted 3 looks very different from Uncharted 1, and they're both on the PS3. So this is also, again, a nice way for really everybody to get used to the new system.
I particularly really like the way that this console generation is shaked out in terms of how they were improving on the hardware as time went on. So it was iterative this time around, and it was never required, which is what I really liked about this time around. Yeah,
I definitely appreciate that. A game might say it's PS4 Pro Enhanced, but you did not have to have a PS4 Pro to play it.
Same thing with Xbox games, Xbox One X games. The games play best on Xbox One X, but you could have the base Xbox One or Xbox One S in order to play any of those games. So it actually is kind of eliminating the need for high-end PC gaming in my eyes, because basically the only games that I play on my PC now are games that I don't think, at the moment that I know I could play at better fidelity, or it's a an indie title that hasn't hit any of the other consoles yet. So in the future, I'm probably just going to, instead of buying a better graphics card, I think I'm just going to buy the new iterative system. Just buy the newest Xbox or the newest PlayStation, because they've really done a good job at that. And it's way better than in the days of you have to buy a 32X, and God knows whether that format will last, or a Sega CD, God knows whether that format will last. It segments your player base. I mean, every time it's done that, it's never worked well. I mean, even the Famicom disk system didn't do as well as they hoped.
I mean, it didn't even make it over to the West.
Exactly.
Same goes for the N64's disk drive. Like, the Westerners heard about it, and they're like, that sounds kind of cool. And then they look up what games are available for it. They're like, I could do that.
It had 6 games. I mean,
like, the coolest part about it was, like, make your own F-Zero X track or something.
Exactly.
Like, okay, that's kind of cool, I guess.
And nowadays you could just play it off of an EverDrive, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But I really like the way this has gone, and I'm really happy that all the Yakuza games are available to us, and easy to play. They're accessible. All of the content's there, and
very nice.
This is great. I mean, eventually, I want to get on playing through these games. I have so many that I'm
all
playing.
Like 80 hours.
Yeah, but I'm gonna play 0 first, and then I'll move on from there. But luckily,
like, if you have the PS4 set, then you may as well just play 0 through 7, because the true way to get all the references is like nobody's doing that.
I'm not doing that.
1, 2, 3, 4, Dead Souls, 5, 0. Kiwami 1, 6, Kiwami 2. What the fuck? Like, no one's doing that.
No, I'm not doing that. Now, like, the vast majority of Yakuza fans will even tell you that 0 is probably the best one too.
0 is a really good starter. The only thing, I've mentioned this before, but the only thing is that as you play the series, if you played it in the true order, 0 was like a long awaited opportunity to play as Majima.
Yeah.
But if you play 0 through 6 in order, like in numerical order, you'll play 0 and you'll be like, that game was really good. And then you never play as Majima again, and you're like, but why not though?
Yeah. You don't get to play as him until like Yakuza of the End, right?
That doesn't really count though. Every character plays the same in that game.
I was just gonna say.
But I mean, you actually there is like an alternate mode in Kiwami 2. Like, what was Majima doing during this time? So you do get to play him as there, but it's not really like the main campaign.
Gotcha. Well, this is really cool, so I'm excited. I'm obviously not going to get to it anytime soon, but I'm glad I have it. Moving on from there, there was new significant DLC added for Fire Emblem 4 Houses. I think I linked... What's that?
I clicked the link. Isn't it Heroes, the Dynasty Warriors game?
No, I'm clicked. I basically clicked on the wrong thing. I linked the wrong thing. 4 Houses did get DLC. I was actually just gonna say that.
3 Houses.
Oh, jeez. You know what? It was
4 Souls, 4 Heroes of Light.
It is like the 4th DLC wave. That's why. I think I got that all screwed up. You could tell that I know a whole lot about this, but apparently people were excited for it. So that's
people
cool.
have really taken a liking to 3 Houses. I still have to play like the really popular ones, like the GameCube and Wii ones, even though they're apparently like the hardest. I want to play Awakening. And apparently 3 Houses is really just taking off.
Yeah, the more and more content that comes out for this game, the less and less I want to play it. I know it sounds bad.
Well, Fire Emblem is just any Fire Emblem game is daunting.
That's really it. It's not that I believe that it's absolutely a great game. I just think that if I started playing this, it would be the only thing I would play all year round because I don't have the time otherwise. And I think in order to beat everything, you need to beat the game 3 times, from 3 different perspectives, and you need to play all the DLC. Like I just don't have the time for that.
I don't know how it works actually. Like I don't know if it's like Resident Evil 2 where like the real ending is if you play both characters, or if it's just different stuff with the different houses.
That's what I mean. I don't know if there's an an ending an extra campaign.
I mean, well, I don't know, but
Whatever.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either, but there's just so much content if you want to play the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is my point.
It does feel weird having DLC for a Fire Emblem game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the phone game, which is Heroes, I think, is like the like a huge hit. So and that has constant content updates.
Well, that makes sense, but like that's not a traditional Fire Emblem game, which like you'd think would exist in a vacuum,
No, but my point is that the game opens itself to that and has been successful as such. So that's why I point that out. So and you could tell that they were trying new things out by putting that on mobile. So
yeah.
I'm happy for the series because I was an early an early Western fan of the series, meaning I played the GBA game when that came out.
Yeah, I watched my friend play that, but I didn't get to that myself.
You watched me play it too for quite a bit when we were in college.
Yeah, a little bit. I remember watching more of it in like high school, but the where I really started following it more closely when we had time to do so was the GameCube game Path of Radiance.
Sure. I want to get back to that, but who, is that the one with Ike in it?
Yeah, that's the Ike game. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, both of them would be, right? The Wii game would also be an Ike game.
The Wii was the sequel, so yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So we like Ike, but
he fights for his friends.
I love that they used like that old timey like presidential slogan to.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's great. Was it Dwight D. Eisenhower?
Yeah. That's so bizarre. I wonder if that was. I mean, I guess it probably was intentional, but I'm kind of still like, was it though? Like maybe.
Well, also, like, I don't think Japan is very much a big fan of Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because he's the one who authorized, the bombing during
Wait,
World War II.
Eisenhower? No, wasn't it? It was Harry S. Truman, wasn't it?
Correct. But he was the. Oh no, Eisenhower was after Truman. Is that? But is that how it works?
Oh, I don't. I'm not
Because
good.
it was FDR during the war, and
Yes.
then it was Truman after.
Well, Truman was the one who dropped the bombs. Yeah.
Okay, so Truman was the general. I thought it was Eisenhower. Anyway,
I mean, Eisenhower was a general, like general of the army. He served as 34th president of the U.S. from 53 to 61. So he was a general in the army during World War II, but he wasn't the president.
gotcha. But no, what I meant was as general, he authorized.
I guess Japan would not have liked him anyway.
Yeah,
In fact,
way,
maybe
yeah.
they would have had more reason not to like him.
Yeah, exactly. With the Western occupation and everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, happy for Fire Emblem.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. The medieval fantasy game.
Yeah. So anyway, also out with new DLC is Dead Cells, which is a Metroidvania roguelike game that we had talked about back when Pyro was on
Yeah, I remember
regularly.
he was playing it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a significant content update here, and when a roguelite gets a significant content update, it's like a huge deal. It's usually a big game changer.
Oh yeah, like I mean, it happened every single time Isaac got it. Enter the Gungeon became more vast when it got its updates. So
Oh, Enter the Gungeons updates like completely changed it. It was great. But this is the Bad Seed DLC. It's only $5. It's totally worth it, I'm sure. It adds new areas and a boss, which is significant. It 3 zones added. One of them's the Arboretum. Let me see here. To the swamp and one other, I think. So anyway, the new boss is called Mama Tick. That sounds disgusting.
yeah, I'll pass on that one. I've had enough of ticks and Bloodborne.
Yeah. But that's really cool. Actually, I really like the way it looks. They have a GIF on Kotaku of.
Yeah, I might want to try getting
fighting
into that at some point because like, roguelites will take over your life, but they're fun.
Oh yeah. I absolutely love Dead Cells. I thought it was really great. I played a robot named Fight, and I didn't like it quite as much. It's kind of a similar conceit, but Dead Cells just has that good feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my main thing is Isaac, but I would very much like to get good at Gungeon because man, I tried streaming that a few days ago. That game is rough.
Oh yeah, but wasn't it addictive just like anything else?
Of course, yeah.
I was very happy when you had said that that's what your 10th anniversary stream is.
Oh yeah,
congratulations on your 10th anniversary. By the way.
Thanks. Yeah, like I want to do something where I could more easily look at the chat because with Gungeon you're very occupied room to room, but like as soon as a room is cleared, which shouldn't take very long, you can cool off for a second.
Yeah,
it's not like I'm playing like Shadow Tower where if I don't move, I'm just looking at a brown wall.
Well, this game has a lot of personality too, and there's also
I picked up a gun that was a bullet, and instead of firing bullets, it fired guns.
I love
that. The stupidest thing ever.
It's so good. One of my favorite things about this kind of game for streaming is that there's almost like an excitement for your audience, like
what's he gonna find?
What guns are you gonna get?
Gungeon and Isaac are great for that. Even after you've beaten the game a long time ago, like I'm fully done. I've platinumed everything. Like you could still just see what happens each time you start a new game. That was what made the GDQ run of Isaac so fun. Like this guy's extremely talented. Let's see how he reacts to whatever the game feels like throwing at him today, because you never know what it's gonna be.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that you're playing it now. It seems like a little bit more frequently.
Well, I only tried it the one time, but once I start it, like, I gotta keep going.
Yeah. No, I'm glad that you've started playing it because it's a cool game. Can't wait until you kill your first past. I've only ever killed one past.
That'll take a while. So far,
Yeah.
I can't beat level 2.
Well, yeah, that's the way that game gets. You
Even floor 1 bosses killed me more often than they did. That game's rough.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, the thing with roguelites is that you end up getting you building up your skills, and then you get better and better. Sometimes you still suck. I mean, that's just the games are just that hard.
Well,
but
and not only that, but it's just like Isaac. Like, sometimes you just have bad stuff on the first floor, like, too bad. Like, it happens.
Yeah, sometimes you have bad luck. Sometimes you have a bad run. I mean, that all happens. And the thing with, like, killing your past is one of the main goals, but it's not the only goals, and it's also like something.
Especially with the DLC, like, now there's a better, bigger goal.
Yeah, it also has special requirements in order to kill your past. Like, you can actually beat a run and not kill your past. But
yeah.
But,
well,
like,
I mean, it just makes me think of, like, again, bringing it back to the one thing I know, but bringing it back to Isaac, like, when you first play the game, a run is considered over when you beat Mom. That's when you beat, like, level 4. That's like, at this point, it's like halfway through the game.
Yeah. Story-wise is it's killing your past, really, is for each character is supposed to be like the big goal, but then there's plenty of harder things to do after that. So there's just tons and tons of content with that game, and I loved it. It just resonated with me a little bit more than Isaac, just personality wise.
Yeah, it's definitely peppier. I mean, the Isaac's whole thing is that it's a downer.
Yeah, I love its sense of humor. It's really good, and it also has like a lot of references to Dark Souls and other stuff as well.
Oh yeah, I picked up the Blade Runner gun. It's called it's called Deckard with a 4 instead of an A, like Deck 4, like Fan 4 stick. Fantastic Four.
Yeah, there's even a whole subplot around like two guys that are fighting over whether it's better to dodge roll or better to parry. Or better to use your shield. That was it.
As someone who always exclusively uses the shield, the correct answer is it's better to dodge roll. Like, that's how I play, but I'm sorry, dodge rolling is like for the top tier players.
Well,
in Bloodborne I dodged because I had no choice.
Also note the name of the company that makes the game.
Devolver Digital.
No, that's the publisher. The developer is Dodge Roll Studios.
Oh, fair enough. I don't think I knew that.
So you know which side of the fight they're on.
There you go.
But it's really funny to have that subplot where you like the shield guy is like being a dick, and like like the dodge roll guy is just like you have to go avenge my death and kill the shield guy for me and do it for all of dodge rolldom. It's really cool. That game is just so much fun. I love it. Can't wait to play more of it. But Dead Cells, also a really great game. That resonated well with me. I just fell off of it. But it's good stuff. Here's a big surprise. New games were added to the NES and SNES app. Which is pretty cool, and some unusual titles, actually.
Yeah, I was just going to say, everybody's favorite NES game, Eliminator Boat Duel.
Yeah.
Everybody's favorite Super Nintendo game, Smash Tennis.
Okay, so 2 of them are losers. 2 out of the 4 are losers.
I mean, to be fair, like, that's more than they had before. Now, if you wanted to play those, you can do it easily. It was just like nobody asked for this.
Eliminator Boat Duel might have the most 90s cover of any video game that I've ever seen. It's even more so than Totally Rad.
I don't know if this counts as 80s or 90s. It might admittedly lean a little more into 80s, but Road Avenger? Because that's fucking rad.
No, that's in the 80s.
All right, well, Shatterhand?
That's very 90s, but have you seen Eliminator Boat Duel's cover?
I'll look it up now.
It looks like a Lisa Frank Trapper Keeper.
Okay, that's pretty 90s. Let me see. Eliminator Boat Duel.
Yeah.
Let's get. Oh wow, that is some rainbow action there.
No, it's the most '90s thing that I can think of in terms of
I mean,
aesthetics.
the actual. Well, that's the thing. Like the actual picture is like completely unremarkable, but it definitely has the color scheme.
Yeah.
And even what cracks me up is actually the title itself. Like the font is just so unremarkable.
Yeah. Now, I think that is a game made by Rare, if I'm not mistaken. I think this might be on the Rare Replay collection.
Wow. Okay.
Nader Boat Duel. It's a 1991 sculptured software. No, I am wrong.
If you play it with 3 players, would it become Eliminator Boat Truel?
Or if you play it, Eliminator Vote
Yeah.
Fool. But anyway, it's an okay game. It's never anybody's favorite or anything like that. But it's more famous for its cover than anything.
Yeah.
So anyway,
but as for the games that you may have actually heard of.
But yeah, so Smash Tennis is also a Japan-only game. I have no idea if it's any good. That's a Super Famicom game. I have no idea if it's any good, so we'll see.
I mean, Mario Tennis didn't exist back then, so take what you could get. Oh, well, it was only Game Boy Color,
Super
wasn't
Tennis.
it?
What was that?
Well, then again, I was going to say, there was a Mario Tennis on the Game Boy Color, right? But that corresponded with the N64?
So the first Mario Tennis game was for the Virtual Boy, and then there was one for
right. There was a tennis. Was it called Mario Tennis, though?
It was absolutely called Mario Tennis.
Okay.
And then the second one was the Game Boy Color one.
Okay.
And then the N64
then the N64 one.
Yeah. The big ones that are coming out is a Japan exclusive Super Famicom Twinbee game, Poppin' Twinbee.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of Twinbee action on the Switch, and I'm actually very
in rapid
happy.
Succession too.
Yeah, I'm actually very happy about it. A lot of these games have never gotten a U.S. Release, and this is a console only game that was not released as part of any of the Konami collections, the recent Konami collections.
Mm-hmm.
So I am very, very happy about this one. It's a great game too. It was made specifically for the Super Nintendo, so there's no better version or anything like that. It's not a downport of some arcade game. It is a unique title.
Nice.
So that's a really, really good game. I think almost all of the Twinbee games are up into, I think, the last arcade one. The last arcade one is not on the Switch, but all of the rest of them are, except for the platformer that kind of plays almost like Rocket Knight Adventures.
Huh.
Yeah, but I expect both those to come to Switch at some point. So anyway, really cool stuff. Twinbee is, of course, one of the 3 great Konami shooter franchises. The other 2 being, of course, Gradius, and the other being what am I thinking of?
The Spanish version, Gracias.
Gradius, Salamander, and Twinbee. So those are all really great games, and I'm excited that Konami's actually doing something about it.
Yeah.
And finally, the other NES game is Shadow the Ninja, which is one of the best action games on the system. It's really, really good. Natsume game as well.
Right. Natsume always makes really interesting titles that are nothing like any of the others.
Natsume had really good games on the NES. You also, what were the other ones? Was it Scat was another one, and there's one other action game I think that they made that was really good. I can't think of it at the moment. But they made a trio of great action games for the NES Shadow the Ninja is probably the best of them. It's very kind of similar to Ninja Gaiden in a lot of ways, so much so that they made a Shadow of the Ninja game for the Game Boy, and Tecmo was like, can we license this and just make this a
Nice.
Ninja Gaiden game? And they made
Just
Ninja
like
Gaiden
Star
Shadow.
Fox Adventures.
They made Ninja Gaiden Shadow out of that, so... but yeah, really, really good stuff. Moving on from that, they announced the first new Prince of Persia game in a while, a really long time.
Yeah, what was the last one? Like the PS3 360 one?
Forgotten Sands. It came out around the same time as the movie.
Okay.
Jake Gyllenhaal movie.
Yeah.
I think that was the last one because that came out after the one that was just called Prince of Persia.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. So
the
this
one that sequel baited and then never got a sequel.
Yeah. Oh no, it got its epilogue.
Did it really? The one just called Prince of Persia?
Yeah. What ended up happening was it sequel baited, but they ended up. This was in the realm of like the beginning of DLC, so it ended up that the end of the game was DLC, and you needed to buy it.
Ugh, it got Asura's Wrath.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of practice is a no-no now. They know that. But the interesting thing is that if you bought it on PC, they never put out the DLC for the PC version of the game. So like, there's no end. It doesn't. You can't play the end of the game if you have the PC version.
That's inane.
But thankfully, it is Xbox 360 backwards compatible on the Xbox One, so you can play it with its DLC there. But it is still available and playable on a current system. It's just, But anyway, brand new game, and it's a VR game, and this actually lends itself, the theme actually lends itself pretty well, if you ask me. This is an escape the room kind of game, similar to like The Room or basically any of the puzzle box games that we've talked about. I'm actually quite okay with this. It like traps and puzzles is what Prince of Persia is all been about since the big beginning.
But can you wall run?
Probably not. You probably can't reverse time because like why would you?
But the game is called The Dagger of Time. Isn't that like that's the one thing I did expect you to be able to do?
Maybe I'm not sure.
That was the whole thing with The Dagger of Time. That was the plot of the trilogy on the GameCube and Xbox, where the whole gimmick was instead of having lives, because in the old Mac and PC Prince of Persia, you had infinite lives, but the entire game was like, what was it, like an hour or 2 hours, like you had a time limit. But on the GameCube Xbox trilogy, if you died, it took you to the game over screen and you would continue at a checkpoint. But if you screwed something up, you had limited uses of the dagger's reverse time by a few seconds functionality, so you could undo that bad jump you just made or something like that.
Yeah, what I imagine that you'll have to do is manipulate time on certain objects, like something that's fallen apart. You reverse time on that, and
okay, that would make sense too. Yeah.
That's what I'm suggesting. I wouldn't imagine that you reverse time in the same way as you did in Sands of Time. Like I messed up on a platforming section.
Yeah, it wouldn't make much sense on a platforming thing, but like I could see you reversing something that you messed up within the parameters of however this VR game works.
Yeah. Well, this actually comes on the heels, I didn't realize this, that there are two other Ubisoft VR Escape the Room games that are set in the Assassin's Creed universe. So
that's interesting.
They have one called Beyond Medusa's Gate and Escape the Lost Pyramid.
I love how just like, I don't know what it is, but, well, Escape the Lost Pyramid is generic enough, but like Beyond Medusa's Gate, that just sounds like an 80s 3.5-inch floppy disk Dungeons and Dragons game, doesn't it?
It sounds great.
Like Eye of the Beholder, Beyond Medusa's Gate. Like, wow, that's so old school adventure.
But I'm okay with this. I'll probably end up playing this. I'm sure it will come to PSVR because that is the most popular VR platform. So.
Well, yeah, because people can actually fucking afford
it. Yeah. And if we're talking about that, I might as well mention that Half-Life Alyx got a release date. It is March 23rd.
Yeah, congratulations. Enjoy buying your reasonably priced game to play on your unreasonably priced PC and VR.
$1,200. I just can't get over that. I'd be willing to pay $500 for or like a really nice set, but like $1,200.
Yeah, like when PSVR is like perfectly serviceable, like how much improvement do I really need to run these high-end PC VR games? Like,
it's ridiculous.
I'm
like,
not paying for that shit.
I want to play this. Like, I would pay good money to play this.
I'll wait till the inevitable port, because what are like 15 people gonna play Alyx, and everyone else is gonna watch it on YouTube because no one could fucking get it to work?
I mean, one of the tenets of Steam and Valve has always been accessibility. So I would think that eventually they would put this on PSVR, but
I mean, why not? Like the Half-Life Orange box was on PS3, I want to say,
and 360. The Orange box was on everything at the time.
There you go. Well, 360 makes sense. Yeah.
The big thing I think what you're referencing is Portal 2. Portal 2 had like had exclusive.
Well, no, I was thinking the Orange box,
up
but
with Steam.
Yeah, like Portal 2 also though had unique Move controller movement for.
I was actually gonna.
Again, 3?
Yes.
Okay.
So Portal 2 actually has unique content to the PS3 that no other. Even it's not even on PC. It has unique puzzles that were only made for the Move controller. Good stuff too. The thing that you do in it is shrink and enlarge platforms, so you can get and make bridges and stuff. Yeah. It's pretty cool. I actually really enjoyed that DLC. It was really cool. So actually, the best version of Portal 2 is the PS3 version.
Yeah, how weird.
But anyway, moving on from that, Anthem is getting reborn, which is actually
now that they're actually prepared to make it. Yeah, sounds good.
I'm actually kind of happy about that. I mean,
I mean, nobody like wants to see a project crash and burn. You know, people did work on that. It's just that like it was bad. Like, what can I say?
It just like they worked on just the nuts and bolts of the game and never like made enough content, like compelling content for
it. Because apparently like even the devs didn't expect it to be announced at E3. It's just like the game's coming and they're like, oh fuck, and they just had to put something together.
Yeah, I mean that was certainly an EA gaffe if I've ever seen one, and BioWare hasn't had it easy lately. They used to be everybody's like favorite studio.
Yeah, and then Mass Effect Andromeda came out. Apparently, the game was actually pretty okay, but that launch.
Yeah, it had a really terrible launch, and then got better over time.
I do love that meme though of that one goofy bit of dialogue. I forgot what the question was. It was like a 2-part question. Like, it was a yes or no thing, and then who did this or whatever. And the person goes, no, and your goddamn father. It's just such a weird line. It makes me think of that 4chan meme where somebody was making some graph, and it was just like, could you please tell me your age? And so I can put it on this graph, and like somebody posted like, I am 12 and what is this? And out of context, it's like a hilarious question. Like, I am 12 and what is this? It's like, just, no, and your goddamn father. Like, what? It's just really funny to me.
I was a big fan of the Mass Effect series, and I was very sad that, its follow-up didn't go over well. I ended up buying, like, Andromeda like super cheap and haven't even touched it, but I think I ended up buying it for something like $8.
Did you not play it because your face is tired?
No, but
okay. That's also like, I don't even in context. What the fuck are you talking about?
But what I was getting at is that like I've kind of like made a vow to myself to not play like mediocre time sinks. Like there's so many great games that I haven't played.
And meanwhile, I Let's Played Conker's Pocket Tales on Game Boy Color.
I mean, somebody's got to do it. It might as well be you. You got to play Quest GBC next. Don't you know?
Well, apparently that's a step up from the N64 version, so it's not even like it's not even bad.
But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I think this is great. I mean, it's getting a second lease on life, and they'll get it right because there's no stakes really. They don't have to release it at a certain time or anything like that. They'll get it right this time. Is my feeling. I mean, this happened with a few high-profile games. I mean, Fallout 76 is kind of going through that kind of thing, and of course, the big game that did this was Final Fantasy 14.
Oh my god, yeah.
It's a completely different game now. It might as well be like a different numbered title.
But that was so bad. Like with Anthem. Well, I mean, a lot of the stuff was multiplayer. I understand that, but like, if it messes up, then damn, like, what a shame for $60. But like for MMOs, you cannot do that. Like that,
you need
that's
to
a
have a fully
whole
fledged experience. From
that's an entire
beginning.
like you have an entire like network dedicated to this giant community. You do not fuck up on day one. Like you can't.
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to seeing whatever they're going to see. Of course, I'm not going to buy it until it launches and people already say it's good or whatever. But I'm optimistic about it at least. Then going on from this, Dandara, which is a really fun Metroidvania game. Did you see much on this, Dandara?
No.
Dandara was like based off of like a Brazilian fantasy tale, but it's really cool. It has a unique system of movement, so you don't really walk. You kind of like dash from like white area to white area, like on walls and ceilings.
Okay.
And it was a lot of fun, and it has a unique art style. It's pixel art, but it still was really neat. It's an indie title, but it is getting a DLC expansion called Trials of Fear Edition. So I assume that will be we'll have the original content included with it, and I'm sure that there will be an update for people that already own it. So it introduces a ton of brand new content, all of which is free to download. Okay, for existing owners of the game, that's awesome. There are 3 new areas to explore, a brand new boss, and new powers, a new ability, and new music, and a new secret ending. Well, that's great, and some quality of life updates. So that's really cool. So this is a significant addition to the game for free, for people that already own it. And
Very nice.
I own it on Switch and PC, so I'm pretty happy. It was really cool. I'm also glad that I didn't play much further than the beginning, because now I can play it like as a whole product.
Yeah, well, I mean that's one of the reasons I held off on Gungeon for so long. Now that I've heard like it's over, like okay, now it's a good time to start.
Exactly. Moving on from that, so this is from a favorite developer of ours, Necrosoft. Do you remember what Necrosoft made?
No.
Oh dear.
Oh Jesus. Okay.
So they made a game called Gunhouse that was pretty popular on a Switch, and it is finally out on Steam and itch.io. So that's pretty cool. It has a really unique art style, and it's a puzzle game. It's very addictive. It's a lot of fun. But I just wanted to give a shout out there because Necrosoft is bitchin'. But yeah, reasonable price too, $6.99. So that's really awesome. Moving on, the game itself is awesome too. You should definitely check it out. There's a new Way of the Samurai game coming out as well, which is kind of out of left field.
It's been a while. The last one was what, 4?
4.
For the third time now, PS3.
Yeah, and PC.
Okay. Yeah, it's on GOG and
3 and 4 are on PC, I think, on Steam and GOG. 1 and 2 are on PlayStation 2. Yeah,
yes, that sounds 2. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people really like 4. Like that's a good place to start if you want to play those games. 4 is the wackiest of the games. Like there's some like weird elements of all these games. They kind of like the premise is like you're a samurai, and this is supposed to be a kind of realistic depiction of like samurai, like battling. Like you can't just go and fight like 10 people. You're going to die.
Yeah.
Like your sword will break if it gets hit enough. That kind of thing. Each duel is like a serious deal. But the hallmark of the series is that like there's a bunch of stuff going on in a town over the course of like so many days, like three or 4 days usually. And there is something going on like clockwork, kind of like Majora's Mask, and you're supposed to play the games over and over again to see all the different ways that those 4 days can go.
Oh, okay.
Like there are like tons of endings, like tons. I'm sure there are some main ones and some like off the beaten path ones. But like you need to the way that you play this game is you find out what's going on in the town at certain times of the day with certain characters. As time goes on, you learn them, and then eventually you could do everything perfectly, that kind of thing. But this one's called Katana Kami, The Way the Samurai Story. So it seems to be kind of like a Gaiden kind of game. But it's supposed to have dungeons in it, which is a new thing. 100 different weapons and 9 fighting styles.
Wait, how do you spell Kami?
Kami.
So it's like Katana God?
I guess. I don't know. No, Piccolo.
Excuse me. Yeah.
2 swords are better than 1. You can... Oh, okay. Apparently it has a multiplayer functionality. Let's see here. Yeah, and there's different factions that you can ally yourself with or against. And apparently there will be characters from previous games in it, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I seen a little bit of these games played. I have all 4 of them. Apparently, people really love the 4th one just because it has all kinds of crazy stuff going on. It's realistic in terms of its like what you do in it, like how you fight. But like the story is wacky as shit. Like,
sure.
Apparently, one of there's like a panty stealing mission at one point. Like it's just craziness. Just nutty stuff, and your characters are all like very flamboyant and have crazy like outfits and stuff that would never exist at the time.
It almost makes me think of like the Saints Row series, where like 1 and 2 are pretty grounded, and then 3 and 4 are just completely off the rails.
I mean, 1 and 2 were pretty damn wacky. I mean, like the first game had like the insurance fraud.
No, I mean that's fair, but I mean you're just like you literally have superpowers now. It's what?
Oh, 4 is the standout game for sure. Like, like the other games are not like 4. 4 is its own thing. But it is the game to play because of that, I guess.
Right.
Also, like all of the stuff has been refined, and like there's a lot of quality of life kind of stuff. And if you want to go back and play the older ones, I remember just being a little on the clunky side because it's realistic fighting. It's hard. It's just very difficult. So it's clunky. Like 4 is probably the most forgiving. Most mainstream in terms of gameplay. Moving on from that, we have a new Sakura. The new Sakura Wars has a U.S. release date of April 28th.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. That's only like the second Sakura Wars game to ever come to the West.
That's correct.
Because we got the one that was on the PS2 and the Wii. Farewell, My Love, I think it was called.
Correct.
Or So Long, My Love, whatever it was.
Yeah, and it took place in the United States, I think, as well.
There you go.
But yeah, this is pretty awesome, and the first time I think Sega has put its name on the front, because I think I have the other one, and it's sold it as an NES game. Like like Sega didn't even publish it. Of course, Sega owns it, so like Sega's trademarks are on the back, but. Yeah, it's not sold as a Sega game. I'm like holding it up to my webcam, so it's sold as an NES game from back then. So,
If you have the
really
PS2
cool.
version, then I think that comes with the soundtrack.
The
The Wii version I
PS2 is
don't
the
think
one.
does, but I think it's like one disc or something like that.
Yeah, the PS2 one's actually the one to own. The PS2 one also, I think, has dual language support, whereas
Oh, okay.
the Wii one does not. So the one to get is the PS2 version. Yeah, Japanese voice over disc. So yeah. So it comes with both versions of the game.
Oh, that's interesting.
The PS2 version does. It comes with a Japanese disc and an American disc, or
Damn.
an English disc. So I've never seen that done even back then. Two different discs for
Yeah, the same
language
it comes
tracks.
with 2 copies of the same game. That's crazy.
Yeah. Pretty cool though. This is also one of the most popular RPG franchises in Japan. Like it was huge. The Sega Saturn was not a huge hit in the United States, but in Japan, the Sega Saturn was actually really big, even back then. It was a very popular system and was right up there with Sony in terms of popularity. And Sakura Wars, the original Sakura Wars, was a huge hit on the Saturn. And so, like, it's a big series that we don't have much introduction to. Thankfully, that first game has been recently fan translated. So, like, if you want to play through a good chunk of the games, I think this is the 4th game, if I'm not mistaken. This one, I think we're only missing either Sakura Wars 2 or Sakura Wars 3. I think this might be the 5th game. I don't know. The new one might be the 5th one, but it's still pretty cool. So it's a combination like visual novel and strategy series, from what I remember. So it's pretty cool. And this is being released by Sega itself, so I'm looking forward to it. I hope it's good. I'm sure it will be.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, I just threw this in there because I thought it was interesting. There's an on-rails arcade shooter that was only released on mobile phones called Assault Chaingun SKM or Assault Chainguns KM. Yeah. So the reason why I brought this up is that it is literally looks like a fan sequel to LA Machine Guns,
Oh,
Gunblade
nice.
New York, which is a fun arcade title that got a home port on the Wii,
Yeah.
made by Sega. It was a lot of fun. I really love these games. They focused on, it was basically imagine Virtual Cop, but with a panning camera that went by very quickly, but shooting a machine gun at robots. It was a lot of fun. So apparently this game came to the Switch in Japan. So you can download it. You can create a Japanese account and buy it if you wish. So that's pretty cool. I just thought it was neat. It even has like Sega Saturn-ish graphics.
Nice.
It looks like it was made at the same time. That kind of thing. Really cool stuff. Moving on from that, we also have Sega Aegis Sonic 2 is coming in on February 20th. So towards the end of this week, as of this recording. I'm very much looking forward to this. Sonic 2 is my favorite Sonic game. I love it. It's really good. So anytime that it will have, its Criterion release, I'm going to be super, super psyched. It, of course, is going to have Knuckles playable, which is awesome. They are implementing the drop dash from Sonic Mania, which is even cooler. Of course, you can turn it on and off if you don't want that. Any of the stuff that they're adding is optional, which is always great. HD vibration, rumble support, challenge mode for quick runs, online rankings for that, and also like all kinds of different ways to display it. And also Puyo Puyo 2 is coming out that same day, so I'm really excited about that. I'm really, really excited. Speaking of Puyo Puyo, there was also a fan translation for Madou Monogatari for the Mega Drive. This is the Puyo Puyo dungeon crawling RPG.
Okay.
Yeah. So that had a Genesis Japan exclusive game that finally got a fan translation. So I just wanted to quickly mention it, as well as Grandia for the Saturn is getting a fan translation as well. I thought that was kind of cool because Grandia has been in the news lately because they ported it to Switch and Steam, but apparently the Saturn version's like slightly better.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that nobody Fraulined the Saturn version.
Lotus is, of course, making light of the German translation snafu.
For Grandia 2, I think it was?
No, it was yeah, I think you're right. And instead of saying miss as in, like, did not hit...
Yeah, it was like miss as in, like, ma'am, like young woman. Excuse me, miss? Like that kind of miss.
So funny.
Fraulein, what?
What's also cool about this is that the fan translation group is printing up like U.S. style Grandia cases. So like cool. You can put it on your shelf. Really neat, with instruction booklet and everything if you want to buy that. So I think you have to burn your own, copy of the game because obviously playing you can't play burned like Saturn games right off the bat. You have to do your due diligence in order to get it, but get it working. But it's still really cool that that they're releasing it like this. It's pretty cool. Yeah, the CDs are blank CDR, so they're not selling copies of the game. Yeah. They're giving you they're giving you screen printed CDRs where you have to burn the copy of the game onto it because they don't want to distribute the game.
Yeah.
But apparently it comes with a map too, which is pretty cool. So that's pretty neat. I don't know whether I would do that. I probably just would take advantage of the fan translation because I don't really have a strong connection with Grandia. Yeah. The appeal to Grandia apparently was always its systems were always really good. The stories have always been kind of like in all three of them have always been kind of meh, weird. Moving on from that, just a couple other things. While we were talking about Sonic, apparently the Sonic movie is kind of decent.
Yeah, why not?
Unbeknownst to everyone.
But did they play Gangster's Paradise?
I think they did. But decent critic reviews. It's around like 65% Rotten Tomatoes right now, which is okay.
I saw a pretty amusing tweet. Like, you know how when the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies start, when it goes to the Marvel logo, it does a million flashes of like the comic book, so it's like all sorts of different characters from the Marvel universe.
Sure.
Apparently they did something not Marvel style, but they showed like a bunch of Sega characters. Like, this is a Sega movie. Before the movie started, and apparently like Kiryu was in there. It's like, Kazuma Kiryu on the big screen. It's fucking crazy.
I hope they have the Alyx Kid movie coming next.
Yeah, I can't wait.
But apparently fans really love it. It has like a 95% fan rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I would take that with a fucking grain of salt. I'm sure somebody's happy bombing that.
I mean, even so though, even if the movie's okay, that still means it's way better than most video game movies.
Exactly. And I'm happy for that. I used to be a Sonic fanatic. Right around the late. I was a big Sonic fan growing up. Like,
I was super into
Genesis
it in the
kid.
Genesis, and I remember being just intrigued by Sonic Adventure 1 on Dreamcast, so I was super excited when I could finally get 1 and 2 on the GameCube.
Yeah, I was a huge Sonic fan. I was a collector of the Sonic comics. I had almost every single one of them up until a certain point when this series was very difficult to collect for. This was before eBay and stuff like that, and most comic book stores didn't even carry it because it was an Archie comic. I was a big fan before I met other Sonic fans, and it all got ruined. I was a big fan in the Sonic Adventure era as well. Because I had a Dreamcast and I loved the Dreamcast. I loved the shit out of it. But then I kind of fell off after that era because they started making bad games after that. I mean, Sonic Heroes was like the first time where I was like, nah. And then,
it's like, okay, I guess. I don't know.
And then it kept being like that, and every once in a while there's like a bright light,
Sonic Colors was pretty good.
Sonic Rush was amazing. I really love Sonic Rush, and Sonic Mania.
Rush is the DS game.
Yeah. Sonic Mania is like one of the best Sonic games.
And then the obvious best ones are Secret Rings and Black Knight on the Wii. It doesn't get better than those. I actually like what they were trying to do though. Do like a Sonic famous fairy tale, universe.
Cool. That is kind of cool.
It's interesting. It's just those games, like the actual gameplay was just atrocious.
Bad. Yeah.
And the stories were the stories in Sonic games are never really good, but these were just like, what? I'm
just glad I'm not part of the Sonic fan community.
Well, it's not too late.
It is. No, it is. Just it's embarrassing. Ugh. But anyway, moving on from that, I just wanted to throw this out quickly that the GameCube loader by Citrus 3000 PSI, he's the guy who came up with the DC HDMI.
Yeah.
He has a brand new version of the GC loader that was put up for pre-order and immediately sold out, a surprise to no one, on Thursday of last week. But this brand new version is better than his initial batch because it requires absolutely no soldering. It's completely plug and play.
Take that, people who actually were paying attention.
But he promises to keep coming out with pre-orders in the future,
sure.
Just as time goes on. He's a one-person guy, like a one-person team. So
yeah, I was gonna say all of us are one-person people.
But you know what I mean. Like
yeah.
He's a one-person team, and it's hard for him to get enough manufactured for demand. Who would have thunk that like GameCube optical drive emulator was still a thing that people wanted, but I really want it. I mean, I want one. I even bought the 3D printed like housing for it that somebody else made, so
Very
that
nice.
I could have that in the future. So I'm looking forward to that. I mean, eventually I want all of my systems to not have any volatile like elements, like batteries, moving parts that could break, that kind of thing. So it's all part of preservation, and GameCube was a great system, had some fantastic games that haven't gotten ported elsewhere. It's also like one of the best ways to play Game Boy Advance games. So
yeah, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games.
Yeah, all Game Boy games, I should say.
The only thing you're missing from Game Boy Original is if it's a Super Game Boy game, then I don't think you get the borders, do you?
No, you would want to play that on like a Super NT or a Super NT, like on the Super NT. You could put the Super Game Boy. I actually have a Super Game Boy 2 for that very purpose.
I kind of would like to pick up one of those.
Yeah, Super Game Boy 2 is like the way to go if you want one of those, because apparently it has more accurate it's a little bit
timing. More accurate to the speed, than the Super Game Boy that America got.
It also has a link cable. Cable.
Oh yeah, I remember you mentioning that. As a novelty, if you had two Super Nintendos and two Super Game Boy 2s and you linked them, then I mean it's not really novel anymore because anybody could do it on like the 3DS, but like you could you could capture direct footage of like trading Pokemon like via a link cable. That's wild.
I mean, the more common thing would be like
Mario Kart racing or something.
It's very feasible that you would have a Game Boy and a Super Game Boy, like that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like you could trade Pokemon. That's probably like with your console.
No. You gotta get two Super Nintendos, two Super Game Boy 2s, and you gotta like record like a multiplayer match of like like Mortal Kombat on Game Boy or something.
I think you mean
Killer Instinct.
I think you mean we should have 5 GameCubes hooked up so we could play
Yes.
Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles.
No,
all linked together.
Yeah, or like Four Swords Adventures.
Adventures.
And you also capture the Game Boy footage.
Yeah, exactly. And
God.
what was it? And what Pac-Man Versus is the only other one that does that kind of shit.
Oh, so, I don't know, maybe. But
yeah,
like, I'm just thinking like with Crystal Chronicles, everybody has like a Game Boy screen.
Yeah, 4 people have a Game Boy, and it all needs to be run by a GameCube. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that.
So same thing with Four Swords Adventure. So you need 5 GameCubes, 4 of them with a Game Boy player.
That's true. Yeah, 4 Game Boy player GameCubes and 1 like actual GameCube. And you also need
if only
5...
I was like super rich and like wanted to have a good laugh.
Yeah, you only need how would this work actually? Because like if you wanted to capture footage from everybody, would you need like 1,000 TVs as well? But shouldn't they all be hooked up to the same TV?
No, you would need 5 TVs.
Fuck that. I don't feel like it.
That's much more reasonable than getting 4 Game Boys. We should do this. We should do this.
I
Lotus.
would prefer not to do this.
We should do it.
We should do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's start simple. Let's do Wind Waker on GameCube and capture the Game Boy Advance little tingle tuner thing.
I got an idea. Let's get 16 TVs, 16 GameCubes.
Mario
16...
Kart Double Dash?
No. That only goes up to 4. But yeah, 16 of everything, and play 16-player Faceball 2000.
Oh no. I'll settle for 1 TV, 1 computer to capture it, and just the novelty of having 12 people in a room playing like football on the Saturn or something.
Oh yeah. Well, I think
or was it hockey? I forgot what it was.
Yeah. Those are pretty great. But yeah, I mean. That's crazy stuff. But
or I
anyway,
could not bother with that shit.
The last one here was a pretty interesting find. Like we keep finding all these like betas and stuff like that. But you can take this one away.
Yeah,
Lotus.
Like I haven't admittedly looked very much into it, but apparently people have found from a dev kit like less than 15 minutes of gameplay footage of like an early build of StarCraft Ghost. Which,
remember that when that was the thing?
Yeah, so like I don't think you could really do much with it. Like what do you expect? The game's not finished, but it's just kind of like, oh, look at that. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, especially considering that there have been a couple high profile like Xbox like betas or like unreleased Xbox games that have turned out like to be pretty great finds.
Yeah.
One of them being they found Rent a Hero #1, which was a Dreamcast game, and it had never been released with an English translation, and they found a complete build of that game with an English translation for the original Xbox for a planned port, and it was never released. So they had done all the work. It was a complete game.
And Rent a Hero, by the way, has shown up in the West, not the game, but the character. Because, you know, sometimes that happens.
Oh, yeah,
where like, you're like, who is that? Like, we're not going to tell. You know, like Marth and Roy in Smash Melee, and you're like, what? Who are these people? So Rent a Hero showed up as one of the fighters. I think he might have been an unlockable fighter, in, a Fighter's Megamix.
Oh, wow.
Saturn. Yeah. So that's one of those things where, like, Rent a Hero, you're like, who's Rent a Hero?
Yeah, he shows up sometimes as a costume, too.
Okay.
Like, for certain fighters. I think it might have even been in Virtual Fighter, that kind of thing. Rent a Hero is actually an older series that started on the Mega Drive.
Yeah.
So, like, the first game was actually, like, on the Japanese Genesis and never got an English translation there. We have a fan translation now, but we kept getting screwed over with that series apparently. But now we can play both games in English, so that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, StarCraft Ghost, very troubled development history. I think the latest developer was supposed to be Sucker Punch.
Huh.
If I remember right, and so everybody knows Sucker Punch from Infamous.
No, that's obviously the Zack Snyder movie, where dancing is represented by video game cutscenes.
That was not a good movie.
Like I watched one of the action sequences and it looked cool, but I just couldn't get into it because there was zero substance. It's like now you have to dance, and it's like okay, I'll imagine something else because this is a horrible situation, and you're fighting like giant samurai with like machine guns and shit. Like what the fuck is going on? Or you're fighting like World War I style like German robots, and there's a dragon. Like it looks cool. What the fuck is any of this for? You know,
none of it means anything.
Yeah,
there's no substance behind it. Yeah. Oh, so there was. Oh, it was Swingin' Ape Studios was the last one, and they were a good developer. They made Metal Arms: A Glitch in the System, which was a great game. Do you ever play that one?
No, I heard it was good, but I don't even know anything about it. I just like it was like the one Metal Arms game that was on like GameCube, I believe.
Yeah, it was on. It was actually on all three major systems at the time. I played it on Xbox. It was a great game. It had a feeling of almost like Jet Force Gemini, but like more modern at the time.
Yeah.
And it also had a really good. It had also had a really funny story. It was a lot of fun. It was actually a really long game. I remember it being like 30 hours, and for an action game, that's really long.
Yeah, that's pretty sizable. Yeah, because even with Ratchet and Clank, if you want to make it to the end, it's not that long a game. It just becomes longer when you want to do the New Game Plus and unlock all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, but this wasn't even in like that has some like open-ish elements, like you could travel from planet to planet and stuff like that. Yeah. Like Metal Arms, like just straight up was levels. like,
wow. Okay.
Yeah, like it was like a long ass game for its day. But yeah, they were making StarCraft Ghost, and they got acquired and integrated into Blizzard as a result. So we never saw like a sequel or anything like that as a result. But that's a shame that everybody was really looking forward to this game. It's hard to believe that probably nobody else has context for this if you don't remember, but like it was one of those games that like just kept getting delayed, and people were really looking forward to it.
What an appropriate title for a game that finally disappeared.
Yeah, it was one of those games that like people really wanted to see, especially considering that like Brood War and this was a huge game, and the StarCraft 2 hadn't come out yet, so and StarCraft was really the first game that really took off like it did in terms of the competitive scene. So nothing was at those heights like StarCraft was at the time. But it's a shame, everybody wanted to see this game, and they raved about it in magazines, and they were all looking forward to it for a long time, and it just died. Had a lot of troubles, unfortunately. And I think that's all I have. If you don't have anything else here,
yeah,
Lotus.
I think that's it for me.
Okay, great. Well, that is another show for this week. Please remember to subscribe to Corrective Consciousness YouTube and SoundCloud pages while there. Please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness. We'll have a great discussion on Western RPGs when we're there on Thursday. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on pretty much anything.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. I had my own little Metal Arms glitch in the system for a moment there. And in addition, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, at the time of this recording, Papo.io just started going public. So by the time you hear this, Oh, it's a short game. I beat it a while ago, but it's quite charming. When this podcast goes up, it'll be part 3 of 5 will go up, quote, today. So, it's a fun little game. Very, very just gorgeous and clever with its puzzle mechanics.
Awesome.
So, yeah, if you're interested in selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, like that one, or getting in conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/lotusprince.
All right, everybody. We'll catch everybody on Thursday then.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.